What's growing? Andrew, Fairweather Farmer, and today we're talking about doing a rotation in your greenhouse in order to maximize the usage of your heated space because it does cost quite a lot of money to keep this place warm, especially at night. So stick around because I've got some pretty good tips on how to make sure every square inch of your greenhouse is actually producing something so you can make a go at making a living growing fruits and vegetables, hopefully organic. So for us right now, the tomatoes are all germinated, they're well established. The switch could have been done probably a little bit earlier, but we've been busy seeding. And they were on the heat mats. So we decided to take these tomatoes off of the heat mats where they were over here. And we've taken our peppers, eggplants, hot peppers, habaneros, jalapeno, those kind of things. Everything that requires the extra heat for germination that isn't germinated yet is now in that space over there where the tomatoes were. And this takes some time and some work, and you want to make sure you don't mix up your varieties when you're doing the move. But it's worth it because now these heat crops are going to have a better germination success. They're going to germinate more evenly faster. And then once they do germinate, they're actually going to grow and establish a little bit quicker because these crops grow better in these conditions. So you're providing the appropriate conditions. And then you really need to know the microclimates in your greenhouse. So for instance, here on this back wall, I know that it's a bit cooler, especially at night. So I can put crops like broccoli, lettuce, things that actually can't be too warm for them to actually have a good germination. Those are nice to put against the wall where a little bit of wind and just cooler in general because the heated area is more the surface area of the greenhouse and the wall is right next to the outside temperature, which is quite different than the 18-degree minimum that we keep in our greenhouse. And that's kind of the principle, is to always be placing the crops in the space in the greenhouse where they're going to most effectively grow. So if it's a cooler crop, cooler area. If it's a crop that's a heat crop, maybe creating microclimates with heat mats, or just knowing where there's little heat pockets. Like I find a little bit on the closer inside of the greenhouse tends to be warmer as well. And just getting to know your space. And another thing that we do to maximize the space that is not necessarily about switching around where the flats are, but if you can start with 128s or 72s, a higher number of cells per flat when you're first seeding, and then pot up later to a 72, a 50, or a 4-inch, then for a certain amount of time, while you're waiting to be able to move things, because soon we'll be able to also move things to the caterpillar tunnel outside. And this is how we make the most of our space. So once crops that are meant to be planted into the fields are well established in the greenhouse, they go to the hardening off tunnel for 2 weeks where they get acclimatized to cooler nights, more wind, and more direct sunlight because the sunlight in the caterpillar tunnel is a little bit more intense than the sunlight in the greenhouse. And so they'll spend about 10 to 14 days minimum there getting hardened off before they go to the field. So every time we can move stuff from the greenhouse to the hardening off tunnel, we've now created space in the greenhouse. Anytime we can plant things from the greenhouse into the greenhouse or plant things from the hardening off tunnel into the field, we also create space. And so throughout the season, as we're ready to plant things, we can also create space to be able to seed more. And so when you have a small space like we do, our greenhouse is 30 by 50 feet, you really do need to maximize the usage of this space. And those are some tips on how you can do that. So go ahead and get growing.